When I tell y'all that I cried through most of this movie, but not necessarily in a bad way. As most of y'all know, Good Boy is the highly talked about horror movie from a dog's point of view. The movie follows Indy, whose human Todd suffers from a chronic illness. They move into Todd's grandfather's old home, and Todd's sister, Vera, worries about their isolation and that the house might be haunted. So going in, I will just mention that I did choose to willingly spoil for myself whether the dog died or not. I kind of had a feeling he wouldn't, just based on the press I was seeing about the movie, very much like the filmmakers, his owners, you know, including him and all the press and everything. And I'm like, there's no way they're gonna kill this dog. They're dog owners. There's no way that that's gonna happen. But I did have to confirm just to be sure. And if you're wanting to watch this, like just looking for some like confirmation about the dog throughout the movie, just to make sure, this will be like slightly spoilery. I'm not gonna like give away the ending or anything like that, but I think you can tell with what I just said whether the dog dies or not. This doesn't say ranch at the top of it, so I think you guys got it figured out. But I will leave a comment like pinned to the top that you can expand if you want some more specifics for yourself, just so you know. Especially with it being a movie about a pet, about a dog like that. I know a lot of you guys are gonna want to know. I wanted to know. Going in, aside from like my worries about the dog, I was worried about how they were gonna play this off, and they did it as more like a third person POV, but like obviously focused on Indy, the dog that stars in the movie. But it kind of felt like it was very interesting the way they shot it. Like it's like they almost shot it as if Indy was a human. Like a lot of like the shots and the kind of like angles and tricks that they use felt very much like something you would see in like your standard horror movie, but it's just focused on a dog, and I kind of really loved that. There was something almost a little fanciful about it. Like for example, we see Indy's dreams and they play out kind of like a human main character's dream might play out in a horror movie, like where it's building up to the scares and then the jump scares where they wake up. It was really interesting to see, even if it was a little silly. But even so, anybody that's owned a dog before knows that they totally dream. And I guess we can only assume that their dreams are similar to ours. We don't really know, and we're never really gonna know. So like might as well just play it off how we see dreams, especially in film. But the way the camera and like the editing and everything was treating Indy, you could really tell this was made by dog owner. Indy's just another member of the family. That's how we see our pets. I feel like Indy was treated the same as a horror movie protagonist, so I was able to suspend my disbelief for some of the things like the dream sequences and other things where I'm like, oh, I don't really know if a dog would do that. I also really liked this whole angle that they had of Indy, Indy almost being like led through the story by the house's previous dog, which honestly isn't even that far of a stretch. Dog noses are incredibly powerful. They can even detect scents from weeks in the past. And I don't know if like Indy's kind of like visions of this previous dog in the house was supposed to indicate that, but that's how I'm choosing to interpret it. It also supported one of the main themes of the movie, which is like the importance that pets bring to your life. Like I said earlier, pet owners see their dogs, cats, etc. as just another member of the family. So this focus on like dogs, not just with Indy, but with him getting like clues about what's going on through the house's previous dog, was a nice touch. And it definitely felt like you were meant to like draw your own conclusions about what's actually going on. There was absolutely a distinct metaphor going on between the entity and the illness that Indy's person was going through. Because it's from Indy's point of view, we don't know exactly what Todd like has or what he is going through. But we do know he's ill in some way, which makes sense though, because dogs don't understand things like that either. They just know that something is wrong or something is off. And you could definitely see this movie as this dog interpreting that something is going on with their human and they don't know what it is, and it's making them anxious and it's making them scared. And that was pretty much the reason I was like weeping through most of this movie. It definitely made me miss Daisy. And no matter how you want to interpret this movie, it can't be denied that a central message of this movie is that dogs are just pure good and they infinitely improve your life. That I know for sure. And it wasn't just like the sweet parts like that that made me miss my own dog. It was the fact that there are, of course, like a few times in this movie where Indy is like laser focused on like a dark corner of a room or something that we don't quite see, because Daisy would do the same thing. And I have a video on my phone of her doing this exact thing, and I'm gonna insert it here. Daisy, could we not? What are you doing? Is there a demon? Can we not do that? Hey, what are you barking at? You're freaking me out, man. It would completely freak me out when Daisy would do this. She would just be like completely still and alert and like looking at something, but she would often do it like outside of my bedroom as well. Like I would be in my bedroom, she'd be in my bedroom, sat at the door looking out into the rest of the house, but like just ears straight up alert. It would freak me the fuck out every time, to the point where I almost felt like she knew what she was doing and she knew it freaked me out and it was just a prank. But like I said, dogs have crazy powerful senses, so they could be sensing some other presence. And so I really enjoyed watching this movie from the dog's point of view, because it's like, as a pet owner, I've experienced this thing as well. And that's like the first thing I would think of being like a horror fan, is like, oh my God, there's like a ghost or a demon or something in the house. And she's alerting to it, because that's what happens in horror movies all the time. They're always the first to notice the scary thing. And speaking of scares, I feel like the scares were quite good in the movie, especially because they were very obviously very clear in like making sure that the dog was not harmed in any way. And even moments where Indy is like meant to be scared, it's all our interpretation based on other factors, like our knowledge of horror movies, the music, the visual of a scary entity. If you splice shots of like Indy just looking intently at something, and then you cut to something scary looking and you add tense music, our brain fills in the rest of the information and is like, oh, the dog is scared. But that's just all based on these like visual and auditory cues, not at all because the dog was actually frightened. And they were more just like playing off of this natural tension that comes from seeing a dog at the center of this scary thing and showing the scary scenes, especially because in horror movies, dogs are usually included to get an emotional reaction out of the audience. We assume at some point the dog is probably going to be killed, and that's going to make us feel a certain type of way. And a lot of times it feels very exploitative of horror movies to do that, because filmmakers know that's going to get a reaction out of people. I feel like this movie played with that idea in really like the best way, because like at no point is Indy actually harmed. Not even really within the movie is he harmed, which is which is crazy. But then you're like, the tension throughout the movie is still there because we're so afraid for this dog. Even when I knew if he would die or not at the end, I was still afraid for the dog. I also really liked the kind of like mini behind the scenes featurette they included at the very end of the credits, which showed how they achieved a lot of the stuff that they did, and especially showing certain scenes where we're like, in the movie, we're like, oh, the dog is scared. And then they're showing the behind the scenes and he's looking intently because his owner has got like his favorite toy on the other side of the camera, which also is like a fun little like comforting thing to be like, oh, okay, so like throughout the movie, he's just playing with his humans. That's how he's interpreting everything. He's not being shown anything frightening. And it also kind of just shows the power of filmmaking as well, because we just sat through this movie where we thought, oh my God, he's scared, he knows something's going on, and it's like, he wasn't actually. So I thought that was a really nice touch and a comforting touch at the end of the film. And I feel like this is also one of those like lightning in the bottle horror ideas where like, I don't think this is gonna start a trend, and I don't think you could start a trend based around this. Like, it works for this movie and this movie only, and that's enough, and I kind of love that. So if you've seen Good Boy, let me know in the comments what you thought about it, and let me know if you went in knowing if Indy was gonna make it or not, because the filmmakers themselves, like I remember they put out an Instagram post and they're like, if you scroll to the last slide, it'll tell you, for anybody who wants to know. So let me know if you intentionally spoiled it for yourself before going in or not. I will see you very soon with another video. Until then, stay strange. Bye.